Today, on A Word on Westerns, Miss Michael Learned.
He's a quiet man, and he didn't reveal a whole lot about himself, but he was always pleasant and congenial and gentle giant. And he was a good kisser.
That's good to know.
It was a really good kiss.
Amanda Blake never knew.
She never got to kiss him, did she?
She didn't know he was a
but
good
I
kisser.
think there was hanky-panky going on in this.
Welcome to A Word on Westerns, where we talk to the greatest Western creators of yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Here we are again.
I'm Rob Word, the host of A Word on Westerns, with my fine young son.
RJ Word, also a host on this iteration of A Word on Westerns.
And a producer, too, I might add.
Yes, sir.
I'm glad you're here because you missed this interview because you were sick and weren't in the theater when we recorded it. I know you came and set up the lights and everything to help, but Michael was wonderful. And I know a lot of hosts like to have their assistants pre-interview the guest and then give the host a list of questions. Well, for one thing, we don't have any assistants to do that, and I don't like that. I want to be surprised, and I'd like the guest to be surprised. So when they say, what are the questions you're going to ask me? I say, you'll find out when you show up.
Yeah, it's authentic. It's fresh. You're hearing these things for the first time just like the audience, and on some unnamed late-night shows, I think it's a little too apparent that the hosts know exactly what these guests are going to say, and it doesn't feel real.
Well, these hopefully feel real for everybody. See, I'm just a film buff and a fan. I like to be entertained, and I like to laugh, and by being spontaneous with the guest, it's exciting, hopefully, for both of us, and then for you listening at home as well. Michael Learned is somebody that I hadn't met before, so it was a surprise for her and for me. She is a 4-time Emmy winner, 3 times for playing Olivia Walton and 1 time as the nurse. She's very funny, and she started out as a very young actress who initially wanted to be a ballet star. And I know, RJ, when you were little,
I had 2 left feet, just like I do now.
But you had a great voice and starred in several musicals on stage when you were in the 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, through the 12th grade. And it was exciting as a parent to watch that. What was that experience like for you? What do you remember about the first time?
I remember instantly being addicted to the laughter that you could get out of an audience.
And that's one of the nice things about recording our interviews at the Autry Museum. It's so gracious of them to allow us to come in there. But I know Jackie Autry said to me, the cowboy, meaning Gene, the cowboy loves what you're doing. And we are passing on the knowledge and history of America's greatest genre, the Westerns. And you think, well, is the Waltons a Westerns? Well, it's not. But Michael Learned did a Gunsmoke episode that is a favorite of a lot of people's. It's called Matt's Love Story, where she got to kiss Matt Dillon. And Miss Kitty never got a chance to kiss Matt Dillon. And so a lot of people are kind of upset about that. But what turned out to be really interesting is that it was actually more than a kiss. Matt Dillon's love child. They had a movie sequel that Michael was brought back, and they used flashbacks from the episode she had done years earlier called Matt's Love Story, where they, now we know, did more than kiss. So that's one of the reasons I wanted her on the show, and it turned out that she was so delightful, so much fun. We talked about a lot of other things, including Dahmer.
Which is a phenomenon for my generation, but a little on the sick side for me.
Well, sick because she plays the grandmother in Dahmer, where her grandson lives in the basement, he's killing people, and then he's eating them. That's pretty sick.
Yummy, yummy. Today's episode of A Word on Westerns is brought to you by Canned Folks.
Whoa!
Canned Folks, sponsored by Dahmer.
Well, luckily, we don't really get into Dahmer that much. But I appreciate her coming on. It was so much fun for me. And like you, I like to hear that laughter. And the audience that was packed into the Wells Fargo Theater at the Autry, they really enjoyed her too. And I think she had a terrific time too. It makes it fun for me and the guest.
Can you tell me the story behind her name?
No, but I'll let her tell you the story behind her name, because you think, what the heck is this all about? Why is she named Michael? It's so confusing, and it's confused a few other people too, even at the Emmy Awards. But I'll let Miss Michael Learned tell you all about it, and all of you listening, you'll learn about it too from Michael Learned. Welcome to A Word on Westerns. Today we have a special episode. We have a 3-time Emmy-winning actress to join us today. She's the only woman who was able to kiss Matt Dillon. She might have done more. We're going to find out all about it from Ms. Michael Learned. Michael, come on in.
Thank you so much.
Nice to see you. Well, that big Matt Dillon, people want to know.
I'm not talking. It was a powerful kiss, let's put it that way.
Well, we didn't know how powerful it was until the TV movie came years and years later.
And somehow this little baby appeared. We don't know where it came from, but anyway.
Well, it was a long time ago, and times have changed on TV a lot.
Yes, that's true.
Because now you're the grandmother of Dahmer.
Oh, yes, but she just loved her grandson. I mean,
well,
I thought a lot about it. You know, I thought, if I found my grandson is living with us, he's 28 and he's gorgeous.
Not down in the basement, though, is he?
No.
Okay.
Not yet. But I thought, what if you come home and this person you loved so much, suddenly you discover there's a whole other, he's out killing people and eating them. I mean, what do you do?
Well, what do you
Kill
do?
yourself, I guess. I would.
Well, your background, let me get into how you became this acclaimed actress. You were one of 6 girls.
The oldest of 6.
Born in Washington, D.C.
Yes, my goodness.
And then you moved to Austria.
Well, we moved first to what they call in Wisconsin a gentleman's farm. I mean, a hobby farm in Wisconsin, a gentleman's farm in Connecticut. So it was a 21-acre farm, and it was heaven. It really was wonderful. Then we moved to Austria, and then we came back to Connecticut.
Mm-hmm. But you went to school in England.
I did.
And is that where you discovered your love of acting?
Yeah, I wanted to be a dancer. And one day, one of the teachers came up to me, and it was a ballet school, it was an art school. And one of the teachers came up and said, you know, Michael, you're not a very good dancer. Why don't you think about becoming an actress instead? So,
well, I guess that's a left-handed compliment, as it were. So
English, you know.
How did you evolve into acting? What was that jump? What was the leap that made you say, yeah, I'm going to do this?
Well, I was kind of a lazy dancer. So when she said that, they had what they called special drama students. And so I became a special drama student. And it just sort of evolved. And I married very young. I married at 17. I married an actor. And we did an off-Broadway show together. And I was hooked. I mean, that was it.
That was Peter Donat.
That was Peter, yes.
Wonderful actor.
Yes, thank you.
Wonderful actor.
Yeah, he was.
And how, so you did...
Boy, you do your homework, don't you?
It's my job.
My gosh, I'm impressed.
But really, I'm going to dig more into Matt Dillon's shenanigans later. But, so with Peter, you were performing in San Francisco, and Ethel Wynant.
That's right.
Great casting.
Gosh,
lady.
I'm so impressed with this man.
Oh,
God,
I'm keeping you on your toes, okay?
Yes, wow.
So, Ethel Wynant, one of the great casting people around, saw you and out of nowhere, it seems like you appeared as Olivia Walton.
Well, the story I heard from another director was, who was a friend of hers as well. She was this wonderful woman who kept coming up to ACT to see the shows. And he said Ethel Winan wrestled Fred Silverman to the ground over you.
He was husky, too.
Well, so was she. But he didn't want me because they were looking for a woman in her 40s with long red hair. And I was 32 with short blonde hair. And I think he was probably correct that I wasn't what they were looking for.
Richard Thomas was, 10 years younger than you?
Richard is 12 years younger than I, yes. So, but he was my child, so... Yeah, I was 12, but in the Appalachians, they start early.
And all that intermarriage stuff, too.
Yes.
So you did get the part.
I did. I know. It's amazing to me.
What a life-changing role
absolutely
that was.
Life-changing. You're so right.
There was a movie beforehand, a TV movie with Patricia Neal, and I think Andrew Duggan as Olivia and, Mr. Walton.
Yes. I can't even think of his character's name now. I'm blank. Ralph Waite. Late Dad.
Waite did it later on TV because most of you all were recast. I know Edgar Bergen was actually the grandfather.
That's right.
In the Christmas Story.
And Will Geer took over from
The Homecoming, A Christmas Story. But that film, Olivia, she is kind of more aggressive and mean to John Boy in that, who was Richard Thomas, and they softened her up a bit for you in the series.
They figured, she was wonderful, and she became a very close friend of mine.
How nice.
So I was with her shortly before she died, and she was just the most gracious person. I was sitting in a restaurant, and if it had been me and somebody else took over my role, I think I would have not been so, I would have been a little hurt. Let's put it that way. But I was sitting in a restaurant in New York, and this icon, this woman, limped because of her stroke. She had a really solid limp, came over to my table and introduced herself to me. And we became friends after that. She was just wonderful.
Did you see her in the restaurant first?
I probably did.
Why didn't you get up and go see her?
Because I was shy. It was also new to me.
She is an icon, though. How
she was
wonderful.
Amazing.
So, and what was she like then?
Very nice, very kind, and really open-hearted. And she told me stories. She took me to her apartment, and I saw pictures of the great love of her life, whose name escapes me.
Gary Cooper?
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
God bless you. Gary Cooper was right at the bottom of her bed, was a picture of Gary Cooper on a dresser. Yeah. Looking at her, I guess.
So what did she tell you about Gary Cooper?
Not much. She just loved him, but she didn't tell me any stories about him. I'm sorry. We talked about other things like clothes and...
Well, he left his wife for a while to be with her as well.
I didn't know that.
Boy, they were magic together in The Fountainhead, too. You could see the magic happening. Your role was so different than Patricia Neal's in The Waltons. I know that you got a little frustrated with not having to do a lot with that. Of course, with a giant cast that you all had. And the focus was really on John Boy, Richard Thomas, narrated by Earl Hamner Jr., the creator. What were some of the things that you went to talk to the writers about, to say, were you on them all the time saying, give me more, give me more?
Not more. Give me some meat. They were very generous, actually, the writers. They did let us give input, and we were a little arrogant at times. But, for me, it was, can I please not just pour coffee and say, and then what happened? And then where did you go? Or time for bed, kids, pass the salt, please. And so, that was a little frustrating. I'd just come from doing repertory theater in San Francisco, and I was playing parts like Private Lives and Cleopatra, Shakespeare's Cleopatra and stuff. And suddenly I'm pouring coffee, and, they pay you a lot of money to do that. Well, not in the beginning. They don't pay you that much when you start out. But after it becomes popular, then you renegotiate your contracts. My mother said, I was worried when you got to Hollywood, you'd start talking about contracts and redecorating. And honest to God, a year later, I was talking about contracts and redecorating to my mother.
Well, coming from the stage and then doing that show as your first big hit, did you realize at the time you've got Vincent Sherman directing the first episode, you've got Jerry Goldsmith doing the music to it, top cabin stuff. Russell Meddy is your DP on the show from Spartacus, an Oscar winner. What, you just said, this is the way it always is in Hollywood.
Oh, no, I wasn't that arrogant. A little arrogant when it came to the scripts, but not. No, I had great respect for Russ Meddy, and we had a wonderful crew. They were like family. I mean, we were together so much and so long that we bonded, and the crew and the cast, we were one unit.
I know that Will Geer had replaced Edgar Bergen because he didn't want to do a series, and Will Geer was just so perfect in that, as was Ellen Corby. What a fabulous actress she was. Now, didn't she have a stroke?
She did. She had a terrible stroke to the point where she couldn't speak. She could say, I'm not making fun of her, but it altered her actual vocal cords. So she would say yes or no. And I remember once she was trying to tell me something and I couldn't get it. She kept trying and trying to tell me whatever it was and I couldn't get it. And finally I got it and she said, yes. And I said, well, why didn't you say so? She laughed. She was wonderful. You know, she was feisty, but she was a true artist, and she had been a script supervisor before she became an actress. So she was on the money, always with her lines. She was right there. She knew everybody else's lines as well. She was terrific.
And you had an array of wonderful guest stars coming through there, too. Margaret Hamilton,
Sissy
the
Spacek.
Wicked Witch, Sissy
Yes,
Spacek,
yes.
Bruce Davison, who got married on the show.
I know.
He had second thoughts for a while, but then he decided, it's going to work out.
And it did, right?
And John Ritter was a semi-regular for a while. What was John like?
Oh, just the greatest, right, Bruce? Bruce is in the audience for you people. Yeah, he was a light, you know. He was just what you saw him. That's who he was. That's just who he was. He was open. He was not nervous. When you're a guest on somebody else's show, sometimes I get very nervous, frankly, you know, because you're so bonded as a family when you've worked together for a long time, as you well know. And so when you're a guest, you're sort of intruding into that special unit. And John just came in, and because he and Richard were best friends, they were very good friends, it was just like he was part of us. It was wonderful. And he's a great guy. I miss him.
So many terrific
It was tragic that he died so
Robert
young.
Donner and Jimmy Gammon.
Yes. Oh, my gosh. Yes.
You know, Tom Bauer.
Oh, yes.
A lot of
Yes.
people.
Yeah,
Good
we were very
scripts.
fortunate.
But
And Margaret Hamilton, for me, was like it.
Why?
You know, I love The Wizard of Oz. It's my favorite movie all time. And to meet her and to be standing, waiting for the lighting, you know, and talking to Margaret Hamilton was pure joy.
Oh, great,
Yeah.
great.
She was lovely.
And Beulah Bondi, too.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know. I didn't know who she was, but they told me. And she was... We're so fortunate, that show, because people came on. I guess they liked the show. I hope they did anyway. But I don't remember one bad apple. I don't remember anybody coming on and being a divo or a diva. They just kind of...
Well, it had such a nice long run, and it really was popular. It filled, I think, a need that the country had at that time, because there was a warmth feeling for family, and it was bringing people back together after the trauma of Vietnam.
I never thought of that, the Vietnam part of it.
Well,
that's very
kind of
interesting.
tore the country apart, and here we had something set in the Depression where everybody has to work together.
That's absolutely right. I never thought of that aspect of
I'm glad you dropped
absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it never occurred to me, but of course, it brought the country back to the good old times.
It really did. It really did. But you left. You said, I've had it. I want real roles. I want meat in my character. And so you left after winning 3 Emmys to go to nurse, and you picked up another one.
I did.
But the show was canceled.
It's so hard to keep polishing them all the time.
Don't you have help that does that for you?
No. Actually, I kept them in the garden for a while until a friend of mine said, that's really disrespectful. So now I have them inside. Yeah, I have them in my study. And the first one was fun because I had no idea that you could win an Emmy for pouring coffee. So I was, honest to God, I was there with my son, and we were just having fun. I had a fancy dress with feathers on the bottom and a feather boa, which I forgot to bring up when I won. So we were just looking at celebrities and having a good time. And when they called my name, they mispronounced it a little bit because it was Best Actress, but the name was Michael. And so they were fumbled a little bit. So we're sitting there, and suddenly we realized it was me. And I'll never forget, my son's eyes were like this. And I was so excited. I called my kids at home, and they were jumping up and down. It was really wonderful.
Well, that raises a question in my mind. Your name, Michael. Wait a minute. I might have mispronounced it too.
No. Too many martinis. It's the only thing I can think of. Oh, let's name her Michael. What the hell? I'm the oldest of 6. You would think that they would have given up by the 6th, but I think that they named me after I can't think of her name. I'm blanking, but Fitzgerald's wife, who was Michael Strange. I think she was a poet. And I'm just Strange Michael, so
well, Michael is better than Strange, I think, so that's good. So let's jump ahead, or as it were, backwards, to Matt's love story. Now, that's the favorite episode of a lot of people because Matt has amnesia, and he's different, so he gets to play a different type role. It's really the two of you. There's chemistry, the magic is there. He not only kisses you, but maybe
Who knew?
Yeah. Well, you were doing the Waltons at the time when you got cast in that. Were you excited to be on Gunsmoke?
Yes, I was. I mean, I grew up. I was a teenager when Gunsmoke was on, and my father said, if a television comes in the front door, I'm going out the back. But when we got a television set, his favorite show was Gunsmoke.
Oh, good for him.
So we watched it, and I'm sitting on the set with James Arness, and I'm thinking, how did I get here? And he turned to me once, I remember, while we were waiting for the lighting, and he said, if I hadn't been an actor, I would have been a truck driver. And he was just the nicest, gentlest human being. He made it easy, because I don't know anything about horses. We had horses on our farm, too, but they were caisson horses. They weren't really horses. They were huge, big chestnut bays.
So you couldn't ride them?
Well, my friend Judy did, because she was a horse person, but I was a ballet person. I wasn't a horse person.
No, come on, you weren't a very good dancer, no.
Well, no, but I was okay. I loved it. I loved it's magic. Ballet is magic.
I don't think you had the ride in that, but you did rescue Matt, who had been wounded and shot, hence the amnesia, and he comes back, you bring him back to life, but then he has to struggle, as do you. I think you have a line like, I've now met 2 men, both of them being Matt Dillon, and I lost out on both of them.
Oh, did I have that line?
Yeah, it was a good line.
What a good line.
Yeah,
poor Mike.
Oh, I know.
Mike Yardner. What's her name?
And so he leaves, and then we find out years later with the TV movie that you were pregnant. With your character, though, in the movie, boy, right from the very top, they show how great you are handling guns, because it comes into play a couple of times later. You save him with a great shot hitting Jeffrey Lewis with a rifle shot. So it's really...
You are amazing, boy.
Well, no, you're amazing. I
don't even remember that, to tell you the truth. But my father had a lot of guns. Guns didn't scare me. I was okay, but horses did. And I bounced, all you cowboys. I never thought I'd be in a room with a bunch of cowboys. How fabulous. But I'm a bouncer. Boom, 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 boom. I'm not a good writer.
And they asked you to come back for the movie using highlights from the romance episode. That must have been a gratifying thing. Had Jim Arness changed?
No.
He still wanted to be a truck driver?
No, I think he liked being an actor,
Yeah,
but he
did.
said had he not been, but no, he was just, he's a quiet man, and he didn't reveal a whole lot about himself, but he was always pleasant and congenial and gentle.
Yes.
Gentle giant. And he was a good kisser.
That's good to know.
It was a really good kiss.
Amanda Blake never knew.
She never got to kiss him, did she?
She didn't know he was a
But
good
I
kisser.
think there was hanky-panky going on in this.
I think in real life, the hanky-panky was with Milburn Stone and Amanda Blake.
Maybe,
Really?
was it?
No, I'm
In
not
truth?
kidding, really.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, you're
Live and
here to
learn.
learn. I am too. and Victor French was in that too.
Yes,
Victor,
he was
what
wonderful.
a fine actor.
Yeah,
He is, too.
fine actor and a nice man too. It was a very happy shoot for me.
Where did you film that?
Not all of them are. I can't remember. Del Rio, Texas,
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think. Yeah, John is shaking his head. My husband knows more about me than I do. Thank God somebody keeps track.
Well, he's watching out for you, I
Yes,
think.
he does.
So,
I'm very lucky. 33 years we've been together. Yeah.
congratulations. Yeah.
He's not my type. That's why. It worked.
Well, I'm a Taurus, and so I'm right all the time. So is my wife. She's a Taurus, too, so we're both right all the
Oh, my
time.
goodness.
I don't know how that even works.
Well, we're two Aries, so we go out. We're Rams, we do a lot of that.
Well,
yeah.
it makes it interesting, doesn't
It
it?
does, as long as you talk it out after. And John always says, okay, he comes into the bedroom, he sits down, he says, all right, this is John. Let's hash it out. And we do.
So what sort of things do you all disagree on?
Everything.
Really?
I call us the Bickersons. All we do is argue all the time. But we also love each other very much.
Did you ever do any radio show recreations like the Bickersons?
Yeah, I did do radio shows, but I can't remember what they were. I honestly can't remember,
love
but I have
radio
done some
drama.
radio.
You know,
But not like a series or anything, but a guest here and there, yeah.
Well, radio is sort of back now. They just call it podcast.
Oh, I never thought of it that way, but of course it is. Yeah. I'm not techno.
Well,
I don't know. I barely know what a podcast is.
I'm lucky I have a 26-year-old son who guides me through those treacherous
I need that.
things,
my grandson's around, so he helps out occasionally.
It
but
helps.
I
it
don't know
helps.
anything about it.
But this is fun. I'm so glad you were able to come and join us here at the Autry. Have you been on a tour of the Autry?
I've been here before, and I went through the museum. It's wonderful. And I thank you for asking me. It's been a pleasure. It's a pleasure hearing Julie, and I'm looking forward to Bruce getting up here and talking about how wonderful the Waltons are.
There's plenty more to come, too.
Thank you.
So,
Thank
well,
you.
Thank you. It means a lot for you to come and join
You're a
us here
sweetheart.
today.
Thanks so much,
Thank
Rob.
you.
Thanks for making it easy.
Wasn't she delightful? I'll bet you're sorry you missed that show.
Well, any chance you get to have that ego stroked, I like to avoid. But, she's only speaking the truth. You are very well versed on all of your guests.
Well, she was so complimentary. It just was very kind of her to say those things. But it just makes me think of who are the people who interviewed her before that, made her think that mine was better.
Not everyone can be the walking version of IMDb with additional anecdotes.
Well, I have always loved movies. I remember when I was very young that I would be watching TV. I was in school, elementary school or junior high school, and my dad would always say, "Go to bed. It's time for bed now," after a show would end. And I would say, I've got to watch the closing credits. And so they would let me watch the closing credits and forget I was there. And I would start watching whatever the next show was. And then he'd say, "Go to bed." And I go, "I can't leave in the middle of this show."
I get it.
So then he started saying, "Okay, who was the prop master in that program?" And so I really did start reading all the credits.
Huh. I never heard that story before, and that makes a lot of sense.
Well, he was a pretty smart guy, my dad.
That's a good way to hold on to information that he, I'm sure, didn't think that you would make a living on one day.
Well, I know he didn't think I would make a living one day doing it, but it did allow me to watch the rest of whatever program I was watching. And I hope everybody out there enjoyed this program today and will join us for our next program a week from now.
Well, I know I'll be here.
So will I.
So everybody out there,
Happy trails to you.
If you enjoy what we do here, please take a moment to follow our show and share these interviews with your friends. You can also find A Word on Westerns on Patreon, Facebook, and YouTube. Thank you, and see you next week on A Word on Westerns. A Word on Westerns is produced and hosted by Rob and RJ Word. Edited by Alex Lockett and Bohr and Ebor Dro. Location audio is provided by Richard Reagan. Sound design by Alex Lockett. A Word on Westerns theme song was composed by Karel Pasoda with additional arrangements by Shipwreck Music and RJ Word.